Being recorded.
Hello, and welcome to the Protocol and PRECEDELink training. First, we're going to cover a little bit of the protocol. So the purpose of the Pancreatic Cancer Early Detection Consortium is to conduct research on multiple aspects of early detection and prevention of pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma by establishing a multi-site cohort of individuals with family history of PDAC and or individuals carrying likely pathogenic germline variants in genes linked to the PDAC risk for longitudinal follow-up. The main objective of the PRECEDE Consortium is to build a shared resource to drive research in critical areas necessary for early detection and prevention of PDAC. Data and samples collected for PRECEDE will allow the consortium to address a variety of topic areas, including but not limited to developing and or validating early detection biomarker tests, improving risk modeling, and risk prediction for PDAC. It will also allow the identification and studying of novel high-penetrance germline pathogenic variants caused by PDAC risk, also designing and implementing enhanced communication tools about PDAC risk, genetic testing, and early detection for patients and healthcare providers. Studying modifying factors for PDAC risk, including common genetic variants and modifiable lifestyle factors. And also developing and validating PDAC prevention strategies for high-risk individuals. The PI's responsibilities for the study are ensuring the qualifications of the research staff, ensuring that there's adequate resources to conduct the study at the site, the medical care of the research participants, and also communications with the IRB, EC, or REB, compliance with the study protocol, informed consent of research participants, and records and reports, and then, of course, safety reporting, including assessment of serious adverse events. The super users or lead coordinators' responsibilities are to ensure that PRECEDELink users at the site are trained and to add those users to PRECEDELink and deactivate users when they leave. Communications with the IRB EC is needed, compliance with the study protocol, and informed consent of research participants is done in the correct way. The GCP, the Good Clinical Practice, is an international ethical and scientific quality standard for designing, conducting, monitoring, recording, and auditing, analyzing, and reporting research trials that involve participation of human subjects. GCP guidelines and the Code of Federal Regulations will be used to conduct this clinical trial. The purpose of using GCP is to protect human participants during clinical trial studies, obtain true informed consent, presenting results accurately in any publications, and to safeguard the participants' integrity and privacy. The PRECEDE population, the study will occur subjects who present for risk assessment at one of the following participating sites on history of one or more family members with PDAC, a pathogenic or likely pathogenic germline variant in a gene linked to PDAC risk, personal history of PDAC with a PGV and genes of research interest, and or part of a familial pancreatic cancer kindred. Also male and female patients between the ages of 18 and 90 years of age, and we anticipate enrolling about 8,000 participants over the next 10 years. So the PRECEDE cohort. The PRECEDE cohort number 1, there are individuals without a history of PDAC meeting any of the following criteria. 2 or more relatives with PDAC on same side of the family, where 2 affected are first degree related to each other, and at least 1 affected is first degree related to the subject. Age 50 or older, or they're less than or equal to 10 years younger than the earliest PDAC in family at time of diagnosis. The second criteria is 2 affected first-degree relatives with PDAC, their age 50 or older, or 10 years younger than the earliest PDAC in the family. The third is BRCA1, BRCA2, CALB2, ATM, MLH1, MSH2, MSH6, PMF2, DPCAM, pathogenetic or likely pathogenic variant, and one first or second degree relative with PDAC, ages 50 and over, or 10 years younger than the earliest PDAC in the family. Familial typical mole and the malignant melanoma with pathogenic or likely pathogenic CDK N2A variant, age 40 and over. And we have the Peutz-Jeghers syndrome with STK11 pathogenic or likely pathogenic variant in their age 35 and over. Hereditary pancreatitis with PRSS1 pathogenic or likely pathogenic variant and a history of pancreatitis in age 40 over. Cohort 2 are individuals without a history of PDAC meeting any of the following criteria: ATM, BRCA1, BRCA2, or PALB2, pathogenic or likely pathogenic variant regardless of family history, ages 50 and over. Or they can have 2 or more relatives with PDAC on the same side of the family and a degree of relation not meeting other criteria above, and their ages 50 plus or 10 years younger than the earliest PDAC in the family. The third is 1 FDR with PDAC less than or equal to the age of 45 and age up to 10 years younger than the PDAC diagnosis and family member. For pre-seed cohorts 1 and 2, the visit schedule includes a baseline visit where informed consent, imaging studies, directed physical exam, demographics, and other medical history are gathered, as well as biospecimens. At the yearly follow-up visit, they'll have imaging studies, directed physical exam, demographics, and other medical history, as well as pancreatic cancer history, and biosamples. There may be event-driven visits where there will be imaging studies and biospecimens collected. So cohort 3 is an individual meeting any of the criteria for cohorts 1 or 2, except their age. For example, they're too young to qualify for either of those cohorts. Cohort 4 is individuals without history of PDAC presenting for evaluation who do not meet any criteria above or after collection of full family history and or germline testing. For cohorts 3 and 4, they have a baseline visit only, where we get the informed consent. You have imaging studies, directed physical exam, demographics, and other medical history, and biosamples. Proceed cohort 5 are individuals who are not otherwise engaged in pancreas surveillance at a participating site, but may be invited to participate in the PRECEDE database and to donate biosamples, such as blood, saliva, and or the swab. For discovery studies, this may include relatives of individuals in the cohorts 1 through 4 and individuals with a personal history of PDAC. The cohort 5 visit schedule is again just the baseline, and we just do the informed consent and collect biospecimens. So for the PRECEDE biospecimen collection, the supplies that are going to be needed are EDTA tube, a non-anticoagulant tube, serological pipette, filter pipette tips, PRECEDE labels, cryotubes, and Falcon tubes. The PRECEDE labels will be provided by the DCC. PRECEDE biosample equipment, you'll need a centrifuge, a negative 80 Celsius freezer, and a standard certified hood for processing human specimens. And you'll see sections 5.5 of the Manual of Operations for processing instructions. The manual of operations contains working documents that should be referred to for standard operating procedures. It's located on the online help tab in PRECEDELink. It has the study organization, regulatory requirements, patient population, including cohorts, informed consent documents, and process. It also has inclusion/exclusion criteria, the visit schedule and details, biosample collection, PRECEDELink instructions, as well as appendices. So now we're going to go ahead and do a demonstration in the PRECEDELink. This is the main landing page for PRECEDELink. You'll be given a username and a temporary password. When you first sign in, you'll have to change your password. These credentials are for you and you only. You should not share them with anyone, and you should also not save them in the browser of in your browser. That's very important. This is that you keep this information secure. If at any point you forget either your password or username, you can click this link here, and it'll ask you to provide an email address for them to send you the information. We click continue. And when you go in, you will be given access to your site only. We're going to use a test site today. As we click on that, then it's going to ask you for the first time that you sign in, or anyone signs in at your site, you're going to be asked to set up a Census password. Now this password will be shared with everyone at the site that will be accessing link that will need to see any PHI that's entered or to actually enter anyone. So you want to make sure that it's something that everybody is aware of and that you have it somewhere so if something happens and somebody new has to come in, they can access it. But it still should only be limited to study personnel. And actually what I'll do first is show you if you don't use the password, what it'll look like, because this is what we see on our end. We don't see any PHI here. So you see we just have a whole bunch of random letters and numbers that are like subject name, a local study ID. Okay. But if I go and enter the password, which I can do it from clicking the link up in the right-hand corner, you'll see now that I actually see names. And if we have a local study ID entered for that. Okay. So that's why it's important for you to use that when you're entering folks into link, but you want to make sure that only study personnel has access to it. So we'll go back to the home page, which is the landing page for PRECEDELink. So now when you first get in, this will all be blank. But after you start entering visits and such, the different widgets on here give you very different information about where it's going on with the study. So if you have any overdue study tasks, so like the CRFs that are completed within the time frame, they'll show up on here. And as you'll notice, there are links to everything. So you can just click right on that link and it'll take you directly to it. So you don't have to search for it. So that's the overdue study task. We also have a consent. So if you've started entering any information in for a participant, but you do not answer their consent status, it'll show up here in this widget. And then we also have study end. Again, if you started completing the study end form is never completed, it'll show up on this widget. The final widget is the one up here, announcements. It's any announcements that we would have for pertaining to, like if there's updates to the link system, if it's going to be down for repairs, we'll put an announcement on here. Okay. To find out the actual announcements live, if you come over to this widget over here, COG, click on that, and there's an announcement. Click on there, and this will have all the announcements that have been given on PRECEDELink, which of course at this point there is none in the test site, but you can mark them as red and it'll take them off of the front page and put them on this page. Another thing that you'll find in all the tables that are in PRECEDELink are you have the ability to sort by clicking on the header, and it'll sort, and if you double click it, it'll sort it in the opposite direction. Okay, do this for the names as well. Any of the headers. Okay, and then any of the columns that have the filter function, you're able to filter by that function only. So we can filter here by, if we want to just see this participant's information, that's what's capacity for this participant. The little X to get rid of that. If you want to see like, okay, wait, what's going to be, let's see what's past, like how many enrollment visits need to be done or are past due. Oh, we've got 3 of them. We'll go into the next tab, which is the tasks tab. This shows all the tasks that needs to be completed for your site up to this point, and then what the next visit is. So it's either going to show you the current visit or the next one coming up if there's no current visit. And again, you can sort this by participant to make it easier to see through. Okay. And then it shows you the enrollment visit needs to be done here, and there was an MRI CRF added. So those need to be completed. I'll also show you the due dates as well as the status and the event date. The more features that are in some of the tables here is you can show or hide the filter row. So if you don't want to use the filter row, you can click this and it takes it away. And you can still sort, even though it's hidden the filter row. We can show it again. If we have some filters in here and we want to take them away so we can see everything, you can just reset the filter or the sort, whichever you have on there. You can print this page out or you can export it to Excel. Now on this particular table, we also have the due in 30 days and due in 90 days. So if you want to see what are all the tasks that need to be completed in the next 30 days for your site, you click this button and here are all those tasks. Okay. You can also see 90 days. Reset the filter. 90 days. Okay. The materials management page, until you start collecting biosamples, you won't have anything on this page. The materials management shows every biosample that's been collected and sent to shipping and what the status is. Is it still at your freezer, which it will be because you haven't shipped, we're not shipping at this point. But it's an easy way to see, like, if a barcode says it's been used, you can come here and look for it. And again, once biosamples get started, is when this page will start being populated. Okay. The last tab here we have is the census, but before we go to the census, I want to go back to this widget tag. And if you click on it, we went through the announcements. We have this manage my account. So if you are a super user, you will see everybody's account and you'll be able to add new participants. So I'm just listed as a user. So I just have access to my own where I can edit my contact information here. And then change the password. If I wanted to change my password, I would click it by clicking this link here. And it does tell you the rules of it. Of creating your password, so it must contain at least 8 characters. It must consist of at least 1 uppercase and 1 lowercase and 1 digit. And only letters and digits are allowed. And you're not able to use the last 3 passwords. Let me change my account. So if you are the super user, you're gonna see the list of everybody. You'll have an option to edit their information as well as to reset their password. But when you actually add someone, you're gonna get a pop-up very similar to this where you'll put in their surname and then their given name. You can put in their prefixes, their suffixes, anything you want to do. Their emails need to be entered, and then you'll also provide them a username. And then we do recommend that you use their first initial of their first name and then their last name, just to give it consistency throughout the study. And then you would save it and they would show up on the screen. The other item that's listed under this cog is the online help. This is where we have the Proceed Quick Start manual. We will be putting the manual of operations on here as well. If you need to email us and while you're in links so that you don't have to get out of it to email us, you can email us from this section here. You would just put in your email address, what the subject is, and then what your question or comment or concern is. And hit send. And that'll go to the help desk and they will respond to you. The last thing on this page are the key to icons. If there's any icon that you come across while going through link, I'm not sure what it means, you can actually come to this page and it'll tell you what they all mean. Okay. So that's the online help information. So now we'll go to the census page. This will be the page that you're going to see used the most because this is how you can get into each individual task page. So what we'll do first is we'll add a new subject. So when you have a new participant or someone that you want to screen, you can put in their first, you can complete them here. Okay, so we'll do like this. And as you'll notice, you'll have a pencil icon, and then if we put in information here, it turns to a gray check mark. And when we get to the next step, it'll show the green. Green means it's actually saved. Okay, so it's actually saving the information as you go through. So their birth date, they need to be at least 18. So we'll hold them. And then when we hit the save, so you can click the save to save it, or you can go just to the next field. Your email address and primary phone, which I'm going to skip those for now. And I will hit save. And so now our person is here at the bottom of the page. Okay. So now what we want to do is fill out the screening form. This is where we're going to put in the eligibility questions. Okay. So we put the date that we're screening on. Does this participant have any first degree relatives? So we want to mark, we'll go ahead and mark yes. And this goes through all the different qualifications to put them into whatever cohorts they're in. So as you notice, if I mark this one as no, so the next question is not relative, it won't let me put anything in there. And it also shows a little negative sign. That means that that question does not need to be answered or cannot be answered. Okay. Like I said, as you enter, it does save the information. Get the check mark. Yeah. Yes, and then we'll just pick a couple here. Okay. And do they have a history of pancreatitis? We'll say no. And hit continue. Okay. So just continue to answer those. No. So if a participant are in any other studies, you will want to enter them here into this can grow table. So to enter information in any of the can grow tables, you would just mark the add new entry. Because I put no, it's not going to let me. So let's check yes, so that way I can go ahead and click on this add new entry. And then you just answer the question. And as you can see, we have a current page progress, 100% completed. There's only one question here, so we can hit continue. And now if we go down, we show that here. What we just entered, you can go in and edit it, or you can actually delete it. Say, oh, I did a duplicate, I need to delete this one. You just hit the red X. Okay, so we continue. Now the very last question and page on each of the CRS is asking if the question is completed. When you mark yes, it will mark it as completed on the participant's iTask, but it will also mark it and take it away from the task page, this page, so you won't show it on there anymore. And if it's showing, if it's tasked you and it was on this page, once you've completed it, it'll take it off of that as well. Okay. So if we hit yes and continue, it's going to take us back into the census. And so now you'll see that the participant does have that they're eligible, and if we're going to consent them. So let's go ahead and put in their consent. They consented to the study. They consent to all parts of the study. Okay. And we won't answer this last question because it's got the little negative sign here, meaning we don't answer the question. And it's because if they didn't consent. And since they consented, we don't want that. We'll go and say, yes, that this is completed, hit continue. And now it's telling us this person is eligible in cohort 1. And it's also giving us an iTask page for them, okay? If you wanted to go in and edit any of the information for like their names, when we added them, they add new subject, you would click on the pencil icon, and it'll take you directly to that page that we completed. Okay? And same with the screening form, you can hit the edit button, and even consent, you can change there. The last column here is the study end. So if the participant, for any reason, leaves the study early, you would complete that here. Reason for departure, so if they were diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, they're deceased, they decided they didn't want to participate anymore, or the investigator decides it's just not in their best interest. They're just not complying with the study, and so we would need to have them leave the study. If you enter somebody by mistake, you would come here and mark them as 99. Again, like say you did a duplicate and realized that afterwards, you can put them here, and this will delete them from the census page, okay? Go back to the census. So now we have our new participants. So we want to go in and look at their specific task page. Then we call this an iTask for individual tasks. So we show their study ID number here, as well as which cohort they're in, if they have a local study ID that you use, their date of birth, when they consented, and then when they end the study, their study end date will be here. Now, when you come into this list, the study or the visit that is current, that needs to be completed, will show open, as well as any that are past due. All the ones afterwards, future visits, are going to be collapsed just to make it a little bit easier to find where you're at. Now, you can go ahead and collapse all until you'll collapse even the current one, or you can expand all, and then you can see all the visits for the next 10 years. So we're going to go ahead and collapse it, and we'll just open up the enrollment form because that's the visit that we're on. So what you want to do for the visit is you come to the calendar icon, the very first task under the visit, and you'll click that, and it's going to tell you that it's the enrollment visit and what the window is for this visit. So they consented today, so they have up to a month to complete the visit. And so that's why they have the dates here from 9/4 to 10/4. So we're doing the visit today, so we'll leave that. It's an in-person visit because the enrollment visit has to be an in-person visit. For future visits, if you do it as a, you always want to make sure that you're doing them in person because we do want to get those biosamples. And then we have the awaiting schedule, which is the default. If you've scheduled the visit but it hasn't occurred yet, if they've missed the visit, or if the visit occurred, okay? And you can come in at any point and change it. So you can do it as scheduled, and then when the visit occurred, you can come in and mark it as occurred, or you can come in and mark it as missed. So we're just going to go ahead and visit occurred and hit save. And then we have the enrollment CRF that needs to be completed. And we'll just pretend we completed this and hit yes and continue. And so now you see that the visit is collapsed. And over here in the far right corner or far right column, it says visit event complete. So that visit we know is completed. You can still though go in, open it, and if you had to make any edits, you can do that. So for each of these visits, you'll notice that we just have the schedule and then the visit scheduled and then the CRF. But we also have some additional forms that you can use. If you come up to the top of the table here where it says add new ad hoc, you'll come in and make sure you select proceed protocol and then which ad hoc event you want to add. So we have the lab CRF, the EUS CRF, MRI CRF, cohort reevaluation. So if they've reached a milestone that could make them eligible for another cohort, you would complete that. If you have any SAEs that get completed by this, as well as any other these ad hoc CRF. So during the study, if they join any other studies, you can actually add them this way instead of having to go back to the screening form. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do a MRI, and we'll add it today. And actually, let's do this. Let's add it for the 9th. Okay. So you'll see it's been added here. And if we close this, you can go and you can see it's all done in chronological order. Okay. So if we add one next year when he comes in, it would fall in between the 9/21 or the 9/22 dates. Okay. So we're just going in and complete this. Again, I'm just going to pretend we completed it all. Hit yes, save, close, and there we have it. It's been saved and completed. So this is how you use the PRECEDELink. If you have any questions, you can always contact PRECEDE-BCC@arborresearch.org. Again, that's PRECEDE-BCC@arborresearch.org. ARBORRESEARCH.org. We'll be happy to help you with any issues that you're having. Okay. I thank you for taking the time to attend this training today, and we look forward to having you participate in the PRECEDE study. Thank you again, and you have a wonderful day.